Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be discussing our upcoming public facilities program cycle for 22 and 23. My name is Tracy Watts. I'm the director of the Office of Community Development, Local Government Assistance, and we just want to thank you for joining us. Today, these are the items that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the source of funds for the program, the priorities for the state, and the size of the grants that are allowed, who the eligible applicants are, and what that application process looks like, any notable changes that we feel we need to bring to your attention for our FY 2022 method of distribution, and the rating criteria for the full applications, as well as project severity and some form discussion that we need to cover. Just some general information for your knowledge. The webinar is being recorded today and will be posted on our website as well as our YouTube channel. You can enter questions into the chat box during the webinar, and they will be answered if they can. If not, we will be providing that information to you at a later date. We encourage you to enter your email address with your questions in case we need to respond later. Written questions should be submitted to our office by emailing james.martin@la.gov by 4 p.m. Friday, February 12th. FAQs will be posted on our website by February 18th, and these will be updated as needed throughout the process. The project severity package, as well as the slides for today's presentation, should be available on our website as well. And as I mentioned before, the webinar is going to be posted on the YouTube channel and on our website. Congress appropriates funds to HUD each year through the federal appropriations process, and the availability and the use of these funds is subject to all of the CDBG rules and regulations. There are many eligible activities in the CDBG program, but as the administrator of the Louisiana State Program, our office works to establish priorities for funding. Every 2 years, we seek input from non-entitlement local governments, and with that input, in conjunction with the priorities of the administration, the state has established sewer, potable water, and street improvements as priorities for the state CDBG program. OCD anticipates receiving over $22 million for FY 2022. Of that amount, approximately $16 million will be made available for the public facilities program. A minimum of $14 million will be spent on sewer and water projects, and thereafter, the highest scoring project will be awarded until all funds have been allocated. For example, if a street project ranks as the 10th project on the ranking list, but we have not met the $14 million benchmark for sewer and water projects until we fund to number 20, then we will continue to fund sewer and water on the list before we fund that street project. After we've met the $14 million requirement, we'll go back and fund the next highest scoring project. We have established the following ceilings for the grants for our funding priorities. Keep in mind also that all applications have to include a minimum of $200,000 in construction costs in order to be considered. So for sewer treatment applications, you can apply for up to $1.2 million. For new sewer, existing sewer, and potable water, you can apply up to $1 million. And for streets, you can apply up to $800,000. Our eligible applicants are all municipalities and parishes in Louisiana, except for the following HUD entitlement communities, which are listed here on this page. If the local government is proposing a project that involves improvements to a system that is not owned by the local government, then a meeting is required with OCD. There is a form in the project severity package that must be completed and submitted to OCD to request a meeting. After the meeting, OCD will complete a section on that form and return it to the applicant to confirm who the correct applicant should be for the project. We are working to avoid any issues later once projects have been submitted with eligible applicants. Large applicants have a little more leeway in the funding amount that they can apply for. Municipalities of more than 12,000 population or parishes that have an unincorporated population of more than 25,000, we allow applications for up to $2 million for sewer or a water project, or up to $1.6 million for a street project. We've included a list of those communities that meet this requirement here on this slide, as well as in the project severity package, which is available on our website. Now we're going to go over the application process. We do use a two-phase process for our public facilities program. Phase 1, the project severity packages are completed and received in our office by June 30th of 2021. Note that we do require that the applications be received in our office, not merely mailed. And all packages then are scored. For phase 2 for 2021, we will determine who meets threshold criteria, which is included in our proposed annual action plan, which will be available today on our website. That determination is made on July 30th of 2021. If an applicant meets the threshold requirement and is within the top 70% of the project severity scores of those applicants that meet that requirement, then its invitation to submit a full application will be issued to the applicant. Our office does anticipate issuing those invitations around August 20th of 2021, and full applications must be received in our office by December 20th of 2021. This slide contains the dates for the FY 2023 phase 2 process for your reference so that you can have those for the future planning. There's some additional requirements that we wanted to make sure that you consider. Applicants that would like to include the fees of design professionals in the application to be paid for with CDBG funds must have followed federal procurement requirements when hiring the design professional. Each application can only include services from one engineering firm, and applicants must meet the federal citizen participation requirements as well. Our office did conduct a webinar on January 28th of 2021 regarding citizen participation and procurement requirements. A recording of that webinar is available on our YouTube channel for viewing. Also, we did issue the memo which announced this webinar on January 27th, which authorized applicants to begin the citizen participation and procurement processes for this public facility cycle. We're now going to go over the rating criteria, which will be included in the full application submittal later in the year. While you may not be required to provide documentation of these items in the project severity package that you're submitting, it's important that you consider these items in the development of your project that you're going to propose. You must note that you cannot change the scope of your project once you submit the project severity package. In order to be a fundable project with CDBG money, a project has to meet a national objective and be an eligible activity. With these types of public facilities projects, which is our eligible activity, you'll be using the low and moderate area national objective, which requires at least 51% of the beneficiaries of the project to be of low and moderate income. You can access information on the HUD Exchange website regarding HUD low mod summary data to review to determine if you meet that criteria. Projects that include beneficiaries of at least 60% low and moderate income will receive 1 point in the rating criteria. For cost effectiveness, you can earn up to 10 points. The applications are divided into like categories and population groups. The best cost effectiveness in each group will receive 10 points, and the others will be awarded a score based on the calculation that you see here on this slide. Not all costs are included in the cost effectiveness score. For instance, any items included in your construction costs that are addressing items included in your resiliency plan will not be included in the cost effectiveness calculation. Also, design fees that will be paid for with CDBG funds are not included in your cost effectiveness calculation. For engineering fees that are being paid for with other funds, an applicant can earn up to 2 points. For consolidation of systems, there's the potential to earn 4 points if an application is proposing to consolidate 2 or more systems into one system. It's important to note that purchase-only systems do not meet this requirement and will not receive the 4 points. Applicants that are proposing a project seeking these consolidation points are required to schedule a meeting with our office to discuss this project. A form is included in the project severity package that must be completed and submitted to OCD to request the meetings. After the meeting, OCD will complete a section of the form and return it to the applicant to document whether OCD agrees that the proposed project meets the consolidation requirements and would be able to receive the 4 points. For application completeness, you can earn up to 2 points. 1 point is awarded for including all required forms in the full application that's submitted to us, as well as the project severity. Also, 1 point is earned when OCD can score your application without requesting revisions. A new rating criteria this year is resiliency. Resilience is the ability to prepare and plan for, absorb, respond, recover from, and more successfully adapt to adverse events. Full applications that will be submitted in December that include a resiliency plan as a separate attachment to the project description, as well as specific items of improvement are included on the cost estimate that coincide with terms identified in your plan, can receive up to 2 points. For example, if an application has an attachment of a resiliency plan to the project description and lists that loss of electricity to a system is a major problem for their resilience, and identifies the need for a generator in order to address that, and then the cost estimate has a generator included in the cost estimate, there would be an item included in the cost estimate that coincides with the resiliency plan, and that would enable them to receive the 2 points. It's important that the local governments, as well as any professional personnel that are working to develop the application, consider all types of resilience that may need to be addressed. Another new criteria that we have added is past performance. 2 points can be earned if a past grantee has not met any of the following requirements. In this determination, OCD will be reviewing 2016 to 2021 program years. An applicant can earn these 2 points if they have not had a project previously that had to get a second contract or a contract extension in order to complete their project. If there were any penalties that were assessed anytime throughout the grant for failure to meet a required benchmark, or if there was a finding of deficiency identified as very serious that was issued during their previous project. Now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jeff Tessier, our engineer, to cover the severity scoring.
Okay, good morning. Severity scores can range from 0 points to 50 points. There's a maximum points for all PF categories of 73. So severity is 70% of your total points. All this to say is severity is a big part of overall funding. And severity, as stated earlier, is the determining factor on who gets to submit an application. The top 70% of severity scores are invited to submit an application. So severity is very important. Streets. We're still funding. You know, people thought we were out of the street business a couple of cycles ago, but we're still funding streets. In fact, in our last funding cycle, we did fund some street projects. So how do we determine street severity scores? We actually visit the sites, we ride the streets, and we score it on 4 different categories. We score on cracking, we score on distortion, we score on disintegration of streets, and we give it an overall ride quality. Okay. This is the actual form that we take out when we ride the street. So first street, we set up, and we ride down Ash Street. At the end of Ash Street, we total up our scores on those 4 different categories. There is a big part of streets, and we'll see this later more with water and sewer. There is no minimum score, so you can't get a 0. So we ride the streets and we total them up in the field. Okay. Another big important thing we do, when you submit a severity package for streets, you must get LDH and DEQ concurrent before you submit. Our goal in all this is to have the grantees apply for critical infrastructure, which we consider and the administration consider to be water and sewer. If the grantees have their critical infrastructure in good working order, then they are allowed to apply for a street grant. These are the LDH and DEQ contacts to submit the form to, and we'll see the form in just a second. But this is critical. This is different from last time. The LDH and DEQ certification form has to be submitted with the severity package. If it's not with the severity package, then we will not score it and you will not be eligible. Next. This is the DEQ and LDH certification form. It basically states where your street project is, but it also gives the identification of the water and sewer systems in that area. If the water or sewer systems in that area have no problems, then you are free. LDH and DEQ will sign off. You are free to submit a street severity to us. Water and sewer are basically scored the same way. Point ranges, different categories of work will start off with a minimum score. Okay, our first things I do when I get a street severity packages, I break them down into water, sewer, and streets, and then I break down the water and sewer into subcategories. And what we have here is subcategories for water applications. Different categories of work have different minimum scores. New water system, getting people off of wells, has a minimum score of 35. We think that's very important. Storage, which is rehab or replacing water tanks to meet storage requirements, has a minimum of 15. So keep this in mind when considering projects. There we go. Sewer, very similar to water. Sewer rehab, lining of pipes, manhole coating, that has a minimum score of 10, where a new system, getting people off of septic tanks, has a minimum score of 35. Again, review this information when considering what projects that you want to do for your grantees. Okay. If existing conditions as stated in the severity package are unsubstantiated or not in violation of any state or federal standard, OCD reserves the right to assign a severity score lower than the minimum. I always put this in there because it is an option we have. We do have an option to score lower than the minimum, but rarely do it, but it is an option to us. You can go put everything up, Heather. Just, there we go. Okay, this is probably the most significant screen that you need to look at as far as getting a high severity score. Every severity package has 3 parts. The engineer's description of how bad the situation is. The engineer's solution of how to fix the problem. The critical part is backup data, how to verify how bad your situation is. These are the parts, and it could be more than this, but these are the main parts of backup data that could get you a very high severity score. If you have any administrative orders or compliance orders, make copies of those and put them in your severity package. If you have any discharge monitoring reports or any other test reports, water quality reports, anything, make copies of it, put it in the severity package. If you have work orders or purchase orders, if the town goes out every week to fix leaking pipes, give me a copy of the work orders or purchase orders and put that in. Citizen complaints. Citizen complaints are very effective or very meaningful to me, because if the citizen takes time to write a letter, write an email, make a phone call, that tells me the problem is pervasive in your area. One thing that's come up over the last few years, if a citizen takes it to the next level and there's a lawsuit against water quality in your area, that's very effective. We've always had newspaper, media articles, if there's anything like that. But one thing that's come up in the last few cycles is social media. There's a Facebook campaign to recall the mayor or do something like that because of all the sewer problems in the area. Anything like that, make copies of it, screenshots, whatever you need to do, make copies of it and put it in your severity package. Relevance. Relevance is bearing upon or connected to the matter in hand. So backup data needs to relate and support the problems as stated in your severity description. Okay, if you apply for a new water well, but all your data talks about deteriorating or leaking pipes in the area, actually a new water well might make the situation worse. So make sure whatever you're applying for, all your backup data supports that problem. Also, it needs to be timely. This is very important. If you have a handful of complaints from 10 years ago, but nothing in between, it tells me all the problems are fixed and there's no need to fund this. So you get a very low score. Just to make this clear, I read all severity and I read them multiple times, and I look at dates, I look at what's concerning, and so please make it relevant. Okay, next. LDH and DEQ buy-in. Sewer treatment, I send to DEQ. They regulate sewer treatment and compliance and discharge limits. All other water and sewer, I send to the district engineers of the 9 regions of LDH. LDH may have a new district engineer. They might not know your problem. They might not know your town. They might not know me. They don't know anything about CDBG. If that's the case, it might be good to call them. It might be good to just at least start a relationship with them to let them know what's going on in your area. Let them know the problems and let them know they'll be hearing from me. Next. Okay, so very important. Before you submit a severity package, make sure all of the parts of the packages are included. Descriptions, very important. Cost estimates, that gives me a good idea of what your solution is, how much it's going to cost, and I like a good broken down cost estimate. But very important, I need attachments. Attachments. If you say you have citizen complaints, I want copies of them, even if it's just a phone log to the mayor's office saying, Ms. Smith called again, there's sewer in her backyard. I need all those attachments. If you say there's a compliance order, make a copy of that compliance order and attach it. Okay, after I start my review, I don't have time to call and say, hey, you said there were complaints. They're not here. So please make a copy of those attachments and put them in there. One more. Hit a few times. A couple more times. There we go. All right, I had this in the last cycle. It got better, but it's still bad. Before you submit a severity package, if you have any questions, please call me. Back in the good old days, I would always say, hey, let's come meet in person. Now we can't do that. So you can always call, you can always email, or you can set up a Zoom call like this. If you want to see, if you want to show me something, please say it. I'm always here. I'd rather answer questions ahead of time and give you a good severity score then a few that call after and say, hey, why didn't I get a good severity score? So if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. Tracy, that's for you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. We're going to now go over a few other little items that we feel like we need to point out to you. These are included in our proposed 2022 method of distribution. A rate study is required for all water and sewer projects that are funded. OCD contracts with LRWA to conduct these rate studies so that we have an independent organization conducting them. A grantee is required to participate in the study in a timely manner and to take action regarding rates if it's determined that this is necessary. If an applicant was previously funded by OCD and required to have a rate study completed, then the applicant will be required to provide documentation of the rate requirements from the previous rate study, as well as documentation of the current rates for the system. If the rates were lowered after the previous CDBG project was completed, then OCD will not consider an application for this system. And finally, grantees for sewer and water projects will be required to have a certified operator on staff to operate the system in order to close out the project and be in good standing with LCDBG program. Some resources that we feel like would be helpful to you and that you may want to review. There's the address to our website. There's also the address to our YouTube channel where we load webinars for you to review at a later date. And also the address to the HUD Exchange Technical Assistance website that covers the program and many of the compliance requirements. Just as a reminder, any written questions should be submitted to OCD by emailing james.martin@la.gov by 4 p.m. Friday, February 12th. And FAQs will be posted on our website by February 18th of 2021. And these will be updated as necessary throughout the application process. We encourage you to follow our Facebook page. We do post reminders, notifications, funds availability, grant awards, etc. on this page. It's the quickest, easiest way for you to get notifications from our office about things that are going on. And then finally, we want to thank you for joining us today. We look forward to receiving your requests. Again, if you entered a question in the chat or the Q&A, that we will be including those in the FAQs when we issue those. So thank you and have a good day.